Hello everyone and welcome back to Alternative Apex Formula Equal here for the 2025 Hungarian Grand Prix round 14 of the season, and Max Verstappen comes here as the man to beat, but Lando Norris has shown some signs earlier in the season that he is no pushover, so perhaps he can begin to rebuild his championship hopes, or perhaps we will see someone else start to put their name in the mix at the front of the field this season. We shall just have to wait and see how it all plays out here today as we now prepare to look at how the cars will be lining up today as a result of yesterday's qualifying session around the Hungarian circuit. On the pole position, it is who else but Max Verstappen. The man in form will start on pole position here, ahead of Lewis Hamilton in second position. Behind them it is Esteban Ocon and Alexander Albon, with Yuki Tsunoda and George Russell just behind them. Then it is Fernando Alonso and Jack Jones, with Gabriel Bortoleto and Lando Norris only down in 10th place. Lance Stroll is 11th, ahead of Oscar Piastri, ahead of Carlos Sainz and Charles Leclerc, and disappointing qualifying for him. Then it's Franco Colapinto, Nico Hülkenberg, Pierre Gasly and Liam Lawson making up the 9th row of the grid, with Andrea Kimi Antonelli, Oliver Behrman and Isaac Hadjar rounding out the rear of the field ahead of today's action. So that's how they'll be lining up for today's action. It should be another fascinating race to add to this season. Verstappen on pole does always leave us with the slight worry that this could be another lights to flag victory, which we have seen on so many occasions this season. But we have to hope. All of us have to put our fingers crossed and hope that someone can put up a fight. Not necessarily that Verstappen doesn't win. I don't want to be biased, of course, but I would like to see a fight put up against him today. I would like to see a battle for victory. Perhaps even someone taking the fight to him in the Drivers' Championship after his recent successes really put him in a oh-so-strong position at the moment. Plenty of drivers, though, out there with more than enough desire to take the fight to him. The cars are on the grid then, the 5 red lights are on, and we are racing here in Hungary, and it's a solid start from both drivers on the front row of the grid, but Verstappen looking like he hasn't got the best of launches. He has just about cleared Lewis Hamilton as they head into turn 1. Will he be able to cover off the Ferrari drivers? They're going to be side by side as they come through the corner exit here, and Hamilton on the outside line as they head towards turn number 2. They're going to be side by side for the lead. Max Verstappen on the inside, Hamilton on the outside, but crucially Hamilton will have the inside for the next corner coming up afterwards, and it's side by side, both drivers on the same compound of tyre, and they race up towards turn number 4. It's going to be incredibly tight here, but it is Lewis Hamilton that leads Max Verstappen, Esteban Ocon, Alexander Albon, Fernando Alonso, Yuki Tsunoda, George Russell, Gabriel Bortoleto, Jack Doohan and Lance Stroll rounding out the top 10 at the moment. Now Lando Norris dropping back on the start. That is worst case scenario for the man who needs a big point stay today, but at least for him that Max Verstappen has been jumped off the line here. As Albon running in that 4th position, can he challenge Ocon for a podium here? Both of these drivers have been on the podium already this season, as has Fernando Alonso, and Yuki Tsunoda behind. It's Alonso looking to try and make the move, though, on Alexander Albon as they head into turn 1 there. The Aston Martin driver on the inside line trying to make something happen as they go side by side on exit, both of them with the help of DRS here as they head down towards it. Turn 2, they go. It is side by side still. Alonso, just like Hamilton did on lap 1, though, is going to be able to go all the way around the outside of turn 2 with the inside line for turn 3 going his way. It's allowed him to get up to 4th place and potentially allow him to challenge for that podium position. Albon behind now, actually feeling the pressure from Yuki Tsunoda before he can start to put any pressure back on Fernando Alonso. And that's going to be really tough to defend down into turn 1 here. Both of them have DRS though, so it's a little bit of a boost for Albon chances in this battle here. The Williams driver on the outside trying to make something happen. Yuki Tsunoda trying to take this position away. Crucial for the team's championship, of course, and Tsunoda up into 5th place. The inside line turn 1, outside line turn 2 appears to be the way to make moves in this one so far. We'll have to wait and see if that continues now. We see that's Fernando Alonso on the back of Esteban Ocon as they head down the main straight. Out of the final corner they go. This is going to be a good battle here for the final spot on the podium. 2 former teammates. We've seen them battle already this season. Alonso looks to the outside, he goes to the inside. This has been the preferred overtaking move so far here today. They're going to be side by side on the corner exit. Can Fernando Alonso make it happen? He's going to have the track position now as they head down towards turn 2. And easily done there for the Spaniard. He's into the podium places here. Looking for just his 3rd podium of the season. A man that you'd really expect to do well in equal machinery. Now finding himself in a position where perhaps he can reel in the top 2 as they now battle in the mid-pack. Jack Doohan still looking for his first points of the season. He has Lance Stroll right up behind him as they head down the main straight. Stroll looking to the inside here for that 9th position. They break in to turn 1, and it's still side by side. Lando Norris stuck behind the pair of them for now. Could prove to be a bit of a spoiler here in Jack Doohan's hopes of a first point of the season. Doohan on the back of Lance Stroll, trying to make something happen now, but he can't, as Stroll makes that move up into 9th place. Albon now in 6th position. He's keeping up with Yuki Tsunoda here. Tsunoda, meanwhile, also keeping up with Esteban Ocon, but look at that. George Russell is on the tail of the Williams driver, and as they head towards turn 1, Russell is going to go to the outside line here, try and break deeper. Now, usually we see the inside line work at turn 1. This time, Russell's trying the outside. I'm not sure if it's going to pay off for him, though, although saying that, look at the speed he's carried on corner exit, and doing it a little bit different there, but George Russell is up into 6th position ahead of Alexander Albon. He'll be looking to try and continue his charge, but Tsunoda ahead of him also has DRS and is making a move on Esteban Ocon as they head towards turn 1. The Haas driver having to try and find a way to defend this position. He's already lost his podium position to Fernando Alonso. He does not want to lose another one. For now, it looks as though he's held onto that position. Tsunoda is going to have to stay in behind for now, but he's looking as though a man that really wants to get himself up into the mix here. Tsunoda not having the best of seasons, it has to be said, but now starting to show some signs that he could potentially get in the mix here for a top 5, maybe even a podium position here today, as Max Verstappen is the first of the leaders to come into the pit lane. He makes his way into the pit entry there. An unusual pit entry here with at the inside of the final corner. Fernando Alonso stays out, but a group of them do come in on this occasion. George Russell, Esteban Ocon, that's Albon and Stroll all coming in this time as Ocon comes out of the pit lane on hard tyres. Oh, and he spun it on cold hards. He spun it around on cold tyres. That was always going to be a tricky outlap on cold hard tyres, but he's spun his car around. And that is a disaster for the Frenchman, and that is going to bring out the safety car here, which is not only a disaster for Ocon, but going to be a disaster for everyone that had already pitted around on that cycle. Hamilton is going to come in this time. This is going to allow him to secure this race lead now. Fernando Alonso may even be able to come out in second here with a shorter delta time in the pit lane relative to Verstappen, as Hamilton will come out in the pits now, and he has a huge lead. Of course, the safety car is going to mean that lead will eventually be nothing, but for now at least, it is a big gap out front. Can Alonso come out in second? No, not quite able to do it. That is going to be Verstappen in second place ahead of Alonso, so Verstappen hasn't lost too much there. Tsunoda, though, has jumped up into 4th place. Bortoletto up into 5th. Jack Doohan is up into 6th place now. Lando Norris got a bit lucky with that one. He's up into 7th. Colapinto is in 9th now as George Russell drops down into 10th place after being right in the mix of the top 5 there. Disaster for him. But now Lewis Hamilton finds himself at the front of the field and looking for his 3rd win of the season. He's going to come around the final corner now, and with 6 laps left to go in this race, the race is back to green flag running here. Lewis Hamilton leads the way ahead of Max Verstappen and Fernando Alonso, and the margin is looking good as they head down towards turn 1. Lewis Hamilton continues to lead the way in this race, and with all the tyres pretty much the same, it should be a fairly simple drive to the end, but we know when you have Max Verstappen in your mirrors, it's never going to be easy. Fernando Alonso also trying to get in the mix for this one. Yuki Tsunoda in that 4th position. He'll be overjoyed with that result. Perhaps he can get himself onto the podium here and get his first podium of the season now, as just ahead of them, the top 3 are starting to drive away. Hamilton, though, at the front, and he has not looked back in this one. He and Verstappen have driven away from the field, and as they head into the final sector for the final time, Lewis Hamilton has done just enough to keep the Flying Dutchman at bay. And as he heads through the final couple of corners here, Lewis Hamilton is on course to take his 3rd win of the season, and whilst the championship is really out of sight for him, he really has shown that he is not an old man and that he still can do it as he wins the Hungarian Grand Prix. Max Verstappen in second, Fernando Alonso, another man who shows that age is just a number, in 3rd place there ahead of Tsunoda, Bortoletto. Jack Doohan takes his first points-paying position of the season with 6 place going to his name, 8 points going to his tally. Another man getting their first points of the season is Franco Colapinto in 9th place there. But the one on the top step of the podium will be Lewis Hamilton here. The Ferrari overalls suit him well, it seems. He has really turned his season around after a disastrous start, it has to be said. he now seems as though he is the top dog at Ferrari, and that is something that I think many people would not have expected just a few races ago in this championship. But Hamilton turning his season around quite nicely, and with that result could well put himself into third place in the Drivers' Championship, or at least in the fight for it, and that is quite impressive from the 7-time world champion there, who lifts his trophy up high. The Ferrari team will be happy with that result. Gives them a chance to try and reel in McLaren and Red Bull in the team's championship. Red Bull having a 2nd and 4th place finish today. Still a very strong day for that team. Red Bull still, I would argue, the team in form. Verstappen still the driver in form. But Ferrari showing they still have the speed required to win here, as we see Lewis Hamilton the top step of the podium once more. So the official results have Lewis Hamilton ahead of Max Verstappen, Fernando Alonso and Yuki Tsunoda, with Gabriel Bortoleto taking a very impressive P5 there. The Brazilian with a very strong drive to take 10 points home for his team. Behind him, it is Jack Doohan who takes his first points of the season, with Lando Norris taking 7th place, which really could have been a lot worse considering how that start of the race went for him. Behind him, it is Carlos Sainz. Franco Colapinto gets his first points of the season, the Argentinian, in 9th place, with George Russell dropping back there with that safety car coming at the worst possible time for him. He only takes home 1 point, with Albon, Lawson, Stroll and Piastri all also missing out on points-paying positions here today, with a mixed-up race, I think it's fair to say, with a few drivers in the mix that we usually don't expect to see. In the Drivers' Championship, it is Max Verstappen with a 44-point lead now ahead of Lando Norris. Lewis Hamilton up into 3rd place, just 89 points off the lead. I say just, but I mean his gap to Norris is nearly the same size as Norris's to the championship lead itself now, so perhaps if Hamilton hits a run of form and Norris can't turn things around, this could be the chance that Hamilton needs to get into the 2nd place in the championship, which of course is not what anyone aims for, but wouldn't be too bad considering the start to his season. Behind him it is then George Russell, Charles Leclerc, Fernando Alonso, Carlos Sainz, Liam Lawson, Oscar Piastri, Pierre Gasly, Yuki Tsunoda and Esteban Ocon in 12th place, with Alexander Albon and Nico Hülkenberg in 13th and 14th. Behind them, we then see that is Lance Stroll with 13 points to his name. Gabriel Bortoleto was on just 1 point this season so far. Make that 11 there. Jack Doohan now at 8 points to his name. Very impressive for him. And Franco Colapinto jumps ahead of Antonelli in the championship with that 9th place finish here today. 18th in the Drivers' Championship. Just 2 drivers now yet to score points this season. They are Oliver Bearman and Isaac Hadjar. And to be fair, Isaac Hadjar came very close last time out in Belgium, so perhaps his time is coming soon here. As we look to the team's championship, it's still close between Red Bull and Ferrari, but McLaren are seemingly fading in this championship fight. As we see, Mercedes are still the team to beat in that fight for 4th place, but Williams and Aston Martin continue to swap positions as they are now separated by just 5 points. It's very close between Racing Bulls and Alpine as well there, with the same being said for Haas and Sauber. Lots of battles to keep an eye on throughout this field at the moment, but Red Bull are the team to beat for now at least. They sit 17 points ahead of Ferrari at the top of the team's championship. And with Tsunoda seemingly hitting a good run of form at the moment, could he be a man to perhaps get his first podium soon, or maybe even his first race win? We'll have to wait and see if that happens. But thank you very much for joining us here for the Hungarian Grand Prix. Next time out, we'll be going to the Netherlands for the Dutch Grand Prix. And well, Max Verstappen in an incredible run of form, going to his home Grand Prix. I fear it could be a slightly predictable one, but who knows? We could see anything, because frankly this season so far we have seen our fair share of surprises. So I do hope you'll all join us again next time in a week's time for the Dutch Grand Prix. But thank you very much for watching. Until next time, goodbye.